Hi, my name is Max Parthas. I am a spoken word artist and abolitionist. I'm also a member of the Abolish Slavery National Network. I was asked to explain a little bit about the 13th Amendment and how it came to be, so here we are. The first interpretation or version of the 13th Amendment was established in 1777 by Vermont. Vermont is lauded across the country as the first state to abolish slavery in their state constitution, but that's not the truth at all. They were the first state to include an exception clause, to use a loophole in order to use prison labor as slavery. That same exception clause has seen many transformations over the years. The state constitutions of Ohio and Alabama. Even states that were not part of the Union after the Civil War eventually adopted their own versions of the 13th Amendment, which has an exception to slavery for criminals duly convicted. States like Colorado and California and others. That exception clause was exploited, especially during a period called the convict leasing period, which occurred immediately after our Emancipation Proclamation and once the 13th Amendment had been ratified by a sufficient number of states. Using convict leasing in tandem with black codes and pig laws and just plain old racial discriminations amongst a slave catcher class, which had morphed into what we now know as police, they were able to re-enslave many of those who had just been emancipated. That process went on all the way up till 1928, when a cave-in occurred in Alabama, which killed roughly 128 black men, women, and children who were enslaved in that mine long after the Emancipation Proclamation. The world became so disgusted that the United States was forced to stop the practices. But as always, they never really do stop. And now we see today the largest prison population in the history of humanity on planet Earth. And the exploitative way that they use this new system is through warehousing bodies. For instance, the national poverty level is $13,000 per year. So as an individual, you're expected to survive on $13,000 a year, and you can get very little help or assistance to get you out of that circumstance. But if you commit one crime in New York, for instance, they will charge, or they will take as much as $337,000 a year from the taxpayer to pay for your incarceration in the state of New York. So you're expected to live on 13 grand a year, but if you commit a crime, suddenly they'll invest $250,000 a year annually into you alone. You never see any of it, and you generate all of it. That's how modern day slavery works in the United States today, through their new version of convict leasing, which is warehousing bodies. And I must also point out that convict leasing using prison labor is still in effect. Prisons all across America and prisoners work for pennies on the dollar, doing jobs that could be done on the outside, and they are exploited for their free labor. An example would be California, where inmates, including juveniles, are risking their lives right now for as little as $2 a day and potentially 1 day off of their sentence. But they're working with supervisors who are making as much as 6 digits a year. If that's not slavery, what is? Once again, I'm Max Parthas. It's been my honor and privilege to introduce you to the 13th Amendment and the Abolish Slavery National Network. Peace.